Today I'm gonna have some fun. In today's video I'm going to be judge and jury of other content creators' tier lists, and I'm feeling particularly egocentric today, so be ready. Jokes aside, since I get constantly asked about whether or not I'm going to update this old tier list I made, which was very peculiar because it had different characteristics and grades for each character, I thought this was a fun way to go about it, just reacting to other people's tier lists, since I really don't feel like updating this one. So in this video I'm going to give you my updated takes on many characters because I'm going to review many other people's takes on them. My first subject is going to be IWinToLoseGaming. I'm actually a big fan of this guy because he makes pretty unique content. And also the tier lists he made I watched in the past had a pretty nice structure because they had different tiers for free-to-play investment and whale investment, which makes a lot of sense if you know how to rate whale investment because things really change a lot when you put that in consideration. First thing he's going to do in this list is he's gonna move some characters from S to SS, so from this previous top tier to an extra top tier to separate the best characters in the game to the almost best characters in the game, I guess.
Impact since her release, and it is Nahida. Nahida, I think, definitely deserves the game. Will Fontaine change that? I would absolutely love to see what they do to the meta, how the monsters evolve, and how Nahida might actually, you know, not be the best character in the game anymore. But right now, Nahida is just insane. It is.
I still think she's going to be a top 3 character at least, because I don't think Dendro teams are going to get worse, even though new teams get introduced. So, and she's the absolute queen of those teams. So I think she's still going to be top 3.
Has been Dendro Impact, and Nahida is the queen of Dendro application. Up next, afterwards, we have Xingqiu and Yelan. Whoever you put in front of the other, I don't really think it matters that much. These two characters are...
Yeah, he said something cool now. He considers them equivalent, which is a refreshing take because many consider Xingqiu to be straight up better, which I don't believe. Xingqiu is better for comfort and for teams that don't have that much of a high ceiling, like transformative reaction teams that don't have that much of a raw damage that Yelan can amplify through the buff she provides, which is the case for teams like Hu Tao Hyper or any team with a hyper carry that benefits from her buffs. So I think considering them equivalent for the most part at free-to-play investment is fine.
The next character in the SS tier is Kazuha. Kazuha, we all know him.
Goes without saying again.
Nowadays,
to me, is the best character in the game. It's either him or Nahida, but he's in that best in the game tier.
He's the best grouper in the game because of the way that a lot of enemies are and the low cooldown on his skill, the multi.
And this is something most people underrate the grouping when comparing him to characters like Sucrose. Like, even though Sucrose can have a similar result in terms of damage calculation because of her buffs and things like those, Kazuha's superior grouping effects and crowd control makes the AoE of the team much better. So in practice, it is better for all the teams that can abuse that.
Afterwards, we have Benny Boy. Bennett,
again, obvious,
is still one of the default healers. Everyone uses him. Everyone gets him. Everyone does a lot of.
Yeah, default healer. But I think his healing got a bit worse because he inflicts pyro application on your character, and there are many opponents that will deal a lot of damage, reaction damage to you that way. So I guess it also makes you more vulnerable other than healing, but the buff is still incredible.
The next one being Raiden. Now you can just see I pretty much just moved a lot of the...
I'm gonna say it. I don't think Raiden is SS tier. These 5 characters really make a lot of teams better. And I just don't think Raiden is in the same tier of importance. I don't think she enables as many teams as these guys, as well as they do as well. Like, I just think these 5 guys are the staple of many top tier team. Like, while with Raiden it's not the same. She is great in Rational. She has many teams where she's the carry that are versatile, but I wouldn't call them top tier.
You guys know the drill, and the fact that she's super easy to use.
Just think she's closer to somebody like Al-Haytham, who is the carry from several pretty great teams. Probably his best teams are even better than Raiden's best teams, at least as a carry, both as a carry.
Up for the S tier. Now, a big unfortunate drop, I think, is Venti. He has been struggling for quite a few Abyss cycles, and miHoYo just doesn't make enemies that are ventiable, if that makes sense, right? Like, so many enemies now are just thick and heavy.
Yeah, the thing is, with anemo characters, they're mostly comfort characters, like Kazuha, Sucrose. They're characters that can enable the team incredibly easily. And if you put on the team somebody like Venti that in half the situations is pretty frustrating to use, his value definitely goes down.
Now, one character that I personally think is extremely good, but the usage statistics just does not back her up, is Sucrose. Now, I think Sucrose is an excellent character, even better than Kazuha in a very few situations, but that's one of the problems, is that Sucrose is just barely better than Kazuha in some very, very limited situations.
I think he's referring to some teams that really make use of her elemental mastery, like the weekend teams, and calculation-wise, they do. Like, she's a bit better, but I don't think in practice this is true in any AoE situation because of how Kazuha can dominate there, while Sucrose doesn't have the same AoE dominance. So the damage of the team just translates better with Kazuha in those situations to me, regardless of what the calculation says. And I'm saying this as a theory crafter, so...
And because no one uses her anymore, which is pretty sad. And because everyone is Kazuha, and you're just going to use Kazuha if you have Sucrose, just because of how insanely easy and good Kazuha is. So I'm actually going to move Sucrose down, and it's a big drop for her because...
I wasn't expecting this based on the premise.
You know, always use, or not always use, but Xiangling is used a lot. And by that nature, I'm also going to scoot Fischl right behind Yaimiko as well.
Wow.
And finally...
this is before Golden Troop. I think if this was after Golden Troop, she will be at least in front of both, I think, in his list. But I agree with the fact that Fischl is not super top tier. Some people think she's there, but I don't.
I'm going to move Xiangling above Hu Tao just because Xiangling is, you know, oftentimes able to do as much damage as Hu Tao can, while also being completely off-field, so you can use Xiangling in more teams than Hu Tao because of that. And this one also pains me a lot, but
fair. I can see this.
All right, so it's time to start moving up characters. Ayato and Child are definitely S-tier characters with this new tier list setup, and personally, I think they're better than Yaimiko and Fischl by just a little bit.
Many people think Ayato is bad. I think S might be like above Fischl, might be a stretch, but I can also see his argument is just in many teams, some of which are pretty dominant, the Bloom teams with Nidhu. I guess I can see this. I don't totally agree, but I can see this.
But Kokomi, I'm going to move her to the SS tier. That's right. Kokomi has been just such a reliable character. I use her all the time, every time. Her usage rates are through the roof.
I think this can make sense depending on how you play. If you like the comfort more than anything else, then Kokomi can be a top tier character. But regardless of this, I don't think she should be ranked above characters like Zhongli and Baiju, just because they kind of do the same thing for their teams. And it only frees with Ayaka if you also use Shenhe and you need a healer. I think she is the best option by a bit. And for Nidhu Bloom teams, she's the best for speedruns. But really, for Nidhu Bloom teams, you can put any combination of Dendro and Hydra units aside from Nidhu and Nahida.
Next character is Nilo. So Nilo is one of these characters that just blows stuff up like crazy. If things don't resist Dendro, she will just murder them.
I think it makes especially sense to rate Nidhu alongside Hu Tao because Nidhu excels in AoE while she struggles in single target objectively without a lot of investment for constellations and signature, while Hu Tao, of course, is excellent in single target but kind of struggles in large AoE scenarios. So I think putting Nidhu and Hu Tao alongside each other makes a lot of sense in a tier list, actually.
Move Keqing right above Sino, and I'm going to move Yoimiya right in front of Keqing. I do feel like these characters are reasonable DPS characters, and that's why they're still sitting in the A tier.
Is putting Keqing alongside Sino. Many people believed Keqing is much better than Sino because she doesn't have the same multi-wave problems where you can swap out to reapply Nahida's elemental skill. So I guess for Quicken, she's more versatile and flexible, but for Quick Bloom, Sino is of course better. And so I think it's fine to put them in the same tier, same spot kind of. On a second thought, putting Sucrose in the same tier as Diona, I think it's too harsh. It's true that she's worse than Kazuha practically, I think. I still think she should be S. Like, even if you believe Sucrose is worse than Kazuha, she's not that much worse, I think.
Quick little adjustment is Xiao behind Sino. People aren't using Xiao as much. Now, I don't think Xiao's bad. He's still in the A tier. This is just a very small kind of horizontal shift for...
Okay, if you don't have Farazan's Constellation 6, this is fine. With Farazan's Constellation 6, I actually believe Xiao should be S tier because his damage output becomes pretty in line with some characters in S.
A lot of characters down. And I'm going to move Toma, Beidou, and Kole down to the B tier. And it's actually...
Yeah, I guess this is the B tier is the nice but more situational tier, which makes sense, I guess, for these characters. Maybe Eula could be here as well.
And things like that. Perhaps if someday we see a buff to Burgeon, we can see
Toma. If Diona is A, then Toma definitely is to me.
That I feel like I underrated back in the day is Mona. Mona's been seeing reasonable usage rates for a while now, which is a bit surprising to me, but I'm definitely going to have to trust the communal usage of Mona a bit more.
I don't feel like that's very strong reasoning, actually. In my opinion, Mona was fine in B because even for freeze nowadays, she's pretty clunky because her Hydro application is not the best. It's not as long as Kokomi's Jellyfish. And freeze teams are not that consistent anymore as a baseline. And other than that, she hasn't got much going for her. I think B, the tier for inconsistent characters, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially if you have Sucrose in A, which shits on Mona.
Jean, Sunfire variants and things like that. But still, you know, we're talking about a small horizontal shift for Jean. Now,
another character that could be in A if Diona is there.
Okay,
same for Layla.
We have a lot of changes to the B tier. This tier has been overcrowded for quite a while now. I put Layla behind her.
What?
Yanfei, unfortunately, no one...
Okay, what's the reason for Diona being A and Layla C? See, Layla has a better shield. She has a Constellation 4 that can help. I think she's just a better defensive option than Diona these days. Like 2 tiers below?
You know, no one uses her and I can see why. And
yeah, other than Layla, I agree with, and Diluc probably, I kind of agree with the characters that are here. Like, they're just very off meta, pretty niche.
Characters with Baizhu being the newest 5-star character that we actually got quite a while ago. Really well, and as such, I'm going to put him in the S tier right behind Jolie. I feel like these two characters are very similar in function.
I would put Kokomi alongside them, but yeah, I think this makes sense. Okay, so just to give my closing thoughts on this list, I think the SS is fine, except the Raiden and Kokomi, which I would put in S, like Kokomi alongside these dudes, Raiden in between Ayaka and Alhaitham, maybe both of them above Ayaka right now. For A, Sucrose can be in S, Venti maybe top up A is too much considering how inconsistent he is. Wanderer and Xiao should definitely be higher because of how they can get much better with Farazan's Constellation 6, but if you don't want to rate that much, then this can be fine. Mona, I would put her in B, and same with Diona. Actually, if Layla is C, I would put Diona in C, and I would put probably Kirara in A. Eizo can also drop to C, same for Barbara for sure. Actually, Klee to me is probably A, but for the rest, I think this is a pretty nice list. I just noticed that I reached the end of the video and there is no whale tiered list. Feels bad, man. The next tier list is the one made by Jello Impact. I'm actually friends with this guy, so of course this means I can be extra cruel. Actually, with us positioned like this, it seems like we're making this video together, so hi Jello, pretty nice.
Let's start with Amber, Aloy, and Chi-Chi, and I would like to preface this with a couple things. Aloy is not completely useless. She's some of those harder boss fights.
I don't care about the trash in tier 4 Jello. Let's jump to the good stuff.
You know, if you don't like him. Layla.
Okay, so up until the point before he added Layla here, I could say this list. I could see these placements. But again, Layla in the same tier as Diona. Let's see.
As the next character, I won't spend as long on Layla because Although I do like her quite a bit better than Diona, they're very, very similar in the fact that she doesn't add all that much to the team outside of the defensive options, but she...
I think this is pretty relevant because what Diona lacks in shielding, she does in healing, but I think it's better to have a stronger shield by default because healing doesn't provide interruption resistance, which means I think Layla is just better, straight up better. If Diona is in a tier, I think Layla should be higher in a higher tier.
Farazan. So Yanfei, I'm going to put here as well. Her best performing team is actually Yanfei Burgeon, and run her with a Burgeon
Feels
team,
free to play.
Baiju, Xingqiu, Nahida,
Feels
something like
play,
that.
man.
This is actually her best team. She can also work as a shielder for mobile enemies, then Kaya's or Ganyu in a first
Mona,
team, and she does it really, really well. But if go on, can you think her in-game performance is pretty good and better than...
What happened? What happened here, Jello? What did you do? Why?
A good chunk of other
Candace?
characters. You could even... If you're arguing at C6, which we are, part of me doesn't want to put her at C6 because it'd be really hard to have a C6 Candace at this point in the game. So she's kind of even maybe placed a bit lower than if I actually had... I don't even have C6 Candace. I
don't feel like she's higher than most of these characters at tier 3. Like, she will fit perfectly in tier 3. Very, very niche.
I honestly think she could move ahead of a bunch of characters in this tier if you have her at C6. But I'm just going to leave her here for now. A Dendro character,
Lisa.
Usually a defensive one like Baiju, Kirara, or Yao Yao, and Kazuha, or Sucrose. That Lisa team is actually going to shred, and that's actually going to be a really,
He's
really
talking
good
about
team, especially once you learn
the Dendro teams with Lisa, I guess.
Actually really, really good. But they are pretty tied to AoE.
See, this is the issue. Like, I don't think you can put Klee in the same tier as Candace. Come on now. Or Izu too. Like, I think her teams are straight up better. Now there is Line, who makes it kind of better, but this was back in 3.8, the list.
Single target performance is not super great, and just because of that, this is a topic that is debated pretty heavily when people are talking about meta, and for me, I really value characters that function extremely well in one niche, but also function pretty well in another niche, because at least for me, I don't like to 3-star an Abyss and then go back out and come back and...
Well, unless your investment on that team, that Monopyro team, is so bad that against bosses you're not going to deal enough damage, I don't feel like you're going to have that issue where you have to reset the Abyss to change team to get 3 stars. Like, the Monopyro team can be just as good as you need in those situations.
Bennett, Kazuha, Shangling are already such a strong...
I forgot to talk about Klee Burgeon. Might be her best team. Okay, let's pretend you didn't say this. Okay.
Has gone up and down over time. I currently feel pretty solid about where she sits here. As much as Hyperbloom Eula is pretty cope, it does, in terms of building a Eula team, it does give her a really solid single target option.
The Hyperbloom Eula team.
On a single tier.
Again, these characters, Ganyu, Yumiya, Yunjin, Beidou, Klee, maybe Eula, maybe not Eula actually. Like, they're better than Candace. Like, Candace should definitely be in tier 3. I'm not changing my opinion.
Like, have to run in with shielders so you don't get interrupted. Basically only good in single target.
The thing with Tighnari
somehow even has less.
Is that is not much of a carry. A hyper carry, sorry. Like, even though he's on field for 5 or 6 seconds of rotation, his personal damage is not so high. And this is a common nature of Dendro teams, or weekend teams, where the damage is spread out. Excluding the Alhaitham variants, which feature a character like Alhaitham that can deal more personal damage, then Tighnari is not much of a personal damage dealer, and as such, on those teams at Constellation 0, he's replaceable by other Dendro characters very easily. And while a high Constellation Tighnari is putting in the work, he's dealing a lot of damage in very short windows.
Talking about Heizo and Yunjin, but he's a really solid character. This tier 1.
Wander in tier 1, I agree, especially if Heizo is in tier 2, and you can put them in the same tier.
Also squeaks out that tier 1 placement. Now, once again, I have to reiterate, this is not a value tier tower.
I don't feel is as good as Wanderer. Let's hear it.
Sino can be a great Hyperbloom driver, and he does, and if you build him for Quick Bloom, which is, it's going to be activating Hyperblooms while he's doing quicken reactions and doing raw damage with his stats, you're going to get a lot of value out of Sino.
Yeah, damage calculation-wise, it's true, but I feel like his weaknesses in multi-wave content put him at a tier below Wanderer. Like, in the same tier as Keqing is fine to me.
Kurara is best in Quicken and Nilou teams, whereas Yao Yao is best on, also Quicken and Nilou.
It's just that Dendro teams are so good as a baseline that these defensive options for Dendro teams are just propelled into a higher tier than you would expect.
Speaking of Farazan, I don't need to talk about this at all.
Okay. He's also putting her above Wanderer and Xiao, which I think makes sense. Some people wouldn't put the support above the carry, but then you have cases like Kazuha or Bennett, and this argument goes out of the way because they're commonly ranked above the carries they support, and the same is for Farazan. She just enables Anemo carries to an extreme degree. Like, she makes the niche. Without her, there is no niche.
His team, which is double Hydro Zhongli, and
this tier is going fine so far, except Sino.
Ganyu, Yoimiya.
This tier is going fine so far.
Zhao. He can be either your second
Nahida
Baiju, or replace Nahida if you don't have her. He's just Dendro's insane element, being able to apply that much of it well on field. Here. And if you have in duo, Tartaglia and Zhongling, they.
I don't feel like they're tier 0, probably closer to tier 1.
Is more integral to more team comps.
Again, not feeling tier 0 because Kazuha is going to be here, and I already explained this in the IWinToLose tier list, but I feel like Sucrose is one tier below Kazuha for practical reasons.
Yes, provides elemental mastery, and at C6, she is equivalent or surpasses Kazuha in aggravate teams, but in mono team.
Jello, come on. Let's not forget the AoE situations.
Main character.
And
have an SS tier team in the right context.
Interesting. I don't. As I said for the IWinToLose tier list, I think she's fine alongside Hu Tao because she excels in AoE. She struggles in single target, while for Hu Tao it's the opposite. She has only one team archetype. I don't feel like she's top tier. Probably not. Tier 1, yes. Top tier, nah.
Content and an A tier team in any other content. Like, it's crazy. She can take Candace, Yao Yao, and Nahida, and it's an SSS tier team. Like, it is.
Maybe not true all the time, but it is true that she can use pretty much any combination of characters, excluding Nahida, which kind of has to be there, and make a really good team. That is true.
I just want to put her just behind Nilou, but Fischl is.
It's funny because I said the tier 1 was almost perfect, but I don't agree with any of the placements in tier 0 so far. I feel like all of these characters are pretty much close to perfect, but not perfect. Like, the perfect characters would be Nahida, Kazuha, and Bennett, maybe.
An absolutely insane character. She basically is Aggravate. You don't have Aggravate if you don't have Fischl. She has insane synergy with Aggravate Electro. She's a bonkers character. This buff. So he basically makes mono team viable. Mono team, especially if you're a scrub like me.
Cookie. Cookie. Like, I don't agree. I just don't agree because it's right. She's great in Hyper Bloom, but that's kind of it. Like, she doesn't have many use cases where she's top tier, and she's a healer. So I think she's good. She's fine in the same tier as Baiju and Kokomi, were also healers, comfort options, and also fit very strong teams. Kokomi with Nilou Bloom, Baiju for all the Dendro teams, and Cookie is no different really. I'm just gonna give a final consideration here. I will bump Raiden, Nilou, Fischl, Sucrose, Shenling, Child down, Cookie down. Then from here I would bump Sino down, Fenty maybe depending on the situation, and okay, that's it. Then here I would bump Lisa. In tier 2 I would bump Lisa, Izu maybe, Candace definitely down, and the rest is okay, excluding Layla down here. Pretty okay list overall. Some interesting placements here and there, some jump scares definitely, but pretty okay overall. Love you, Jello. The last list in this video is from Vars. This one is pretty interesting because Vars is not much of a meta YouTuber, he's more of a game design YouTuber. That's what he analyzes in his videos. He doesn't go very in depth in how good a unit is in terms of meta calculation, more of a game design thing. So it's going to be interesting to hear his take on characters. And this one goes up to, I think I'll hate them. It's before Deya. So, okay.
On the subject of that, actually, I'm going to put Ganyu here as well. Where is she? So she's also going to be there. Next up, we have...
Okay, I get this question sometimes, what I think about Ayaka and Ganyu. Are they in the same level? I don't think they are. I think Ayaka just does the work better. She has better damage in terms of calculation. She has better frontal damage. She maximizes the AoE situations more because her damage is more focused in a very strict window, while with Ganyu, you need AoE for long times to be able to sort of match Ayaka, but not quite, even then. So definitely think Ganyu is tier 2.
Beidou.
Okay.
I'm gonna say tier 2 as well. She was in my one of my underrated characters for my underrated characters video, but I think that's just really be a tier 1 character because
it is good.
As you can see, tier 2 is just situational. So I'll put her.
She doesn't have much of a meta focus anymore, but by herself, she's good. She's tier 2 worth.
Up next, you have Chongyun, who is going to be in tier 3. Burst-oriented cryo DPS, but he is a 4-star, and 4-stars have a lower stat line. Not to mention
that, and the fact his burst costs 40 energy, which means the damage is balanced for that, and there aren't many teams that can make use of the low cooldown that well.
But you do have to put in if you're going for a more offense-oriented.
Am I the only one that doesn't like Diona that much? No, I really feel like she's tier 3 these days, especially with Layla now out. That is straight up better, but I guess I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the one who's wrong.
Cryo comp, then there are better options out there. Next, we have Official, a tier 0. She's another member of, I guess, the Power 5, which are a group of 4-star characters who are surprised. Klee, tier 3. This might be premature. I've heard a lot of instances where Klee's actually at 2.
Wait, what did you say?
She does quite substantial.
Premature.
Klee, tier 3. This might be premature. I've heard a lot of...
Premature? What do you mean by premature? Like, she's been out for a long time.
Razor. Razor is interesting. A character that I think only circumstantially is viable. Although then again, thanks to the advent of Quicken and Aggravate or Electro, because of the effectiveness of Aggravate, you really can't put it any further down than this. He does have...
Okay.
I don't know. It's like, it's such an awkward play.
You said it's interesting, but for the wrong reason. I mean, it's not for Quicken, it's
for him.
His capability to deal physical attacks while having electro attacks on top of that, which means he can be infused with Pyro through Bennett and make some very rainbow teams with Dendro that have multiple reactions, but definitely not Quicken based.
Sucrose Taser and Sucrose just crowd control and everything. She's so freaking good. Yes, if you...
Okay, I'll give props for bringing up the fact she can drive, which I've ignored. And this is something she has that Kazuha doesn't have, I guess. Although Kazuha, with all those weirds he can generate through the burst and the elemental skill that has a low cooldown, can sort of replicate the driving of Sucrose on some teams. But this is something she has that gives her a dimension that Kazuha doesn't have, kind of. So yeah, that gives her a bump. But I still don't think she's as good as Kazuha.
Xiao. Xiao should be in probably tier 3. He's really good. If you're willing to put all the Benjamins on this guy, you do need a lot of stuff on him. Animo DPS in general is just not too practical at the moment. It could get better in the future, but by extension, I'm going to put Wander here.
Oh no! The death of the Animo element. I'm hoping he doesn't consider Farazan's Constellation 6 for displacement, but if he does, I don't know. I can find the reasoning for this, personally.
Dory's here. This might not be very good to say, but I never used her, nor have I ever seen her. But that also might be kind of indicative of something. If you never see her being used, or if you never use her herself, it's like, then she's probably not the best character. Although I don't think she's a tier 4 character. I forget what Dory does, actually. Is she I think she's an electro healer, right? I don't remember.
Okay, let's just put her in tier 3 because we feel like it's true. This is funny. No ill feelings, but this is just funny. But I think, yeah, tier 3 probably.
No, she's an electric healer. No, she's not an electric healer. Oh my god. Alright, why this character?
Okay, the next one is Layla. Now comes the real trial. Can you outdo IWinToLoseGaming and Jello by placing Layla correctly? This can change my judgment for your entire list.
I will make why everyone plays on her very soon, even though she just came out. Layla will be down here too.
No! This is the second no he made me say. This is very bad. This is very bad. The second no.
Especially when I was
Same
asking.
problem as before. I don't think you can put Layla below Diona. She should be above.
Characters, it is definitely much more useful in the situations that you can use her for. And she's pretty much allowing for animal DPS to be viable, so.
Okay, so he is considering Vars and Constellation 6 potentially, which makes these two's placement all the more confusing.
Dia is supposed to be a standard banner character, similar to Tignati. And I've also heard she's really bad. Discussion is, especially from Brax. What the hell, Braxton? What do you have against her that made you were like, oh my god, you were complaining?
No, you, Vars. What do you have against Wanderer and Shao?
Thinking about how bad she was on Twitter for like 5 years. Physical damage sucks. No offense to Yola mains, but I have to give him the same treatment as I would Farazan, where it's like he is, or it's like the like the Goro, Shinho. We have Farazan for animal, Goro for Geo, Shinho for cryo, and Mika will be for physical.
Okay, for the whole list, I guess it will bump Fischl, Sucrose, and Shulling to tier 1. The rest of tier 1 here is okay, I guess. Yayo maybe can be argued to be tier 2, especially if Zhongli is here. But, okay, I would personally bump Zhongli up in tier 1 and then have Yayo maybe on the edge of dropping to tier 2. Then for tier 2, yeah, probably Vars and Constellation 6 in tier 1. Because of how strong she is. Like, she makes these two guys that have been trashed in this list very, very strong by herself. Then in tier 3, probably Sarah to tier 2. It just seems too harsh to put her in tier 3 considering you have Mika in there. Toma, maybe tier 2 definitely since Diona is there. Diona tier 3, Layla tier 2, Klee tier 2. Okay, the rest is fine, I think. Okay, so this is it. This was a pretty funny video for me to make, honestly, and it allowed me to give my take on many characters, so it's also informational, I guess. But it was pretty fun. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and see you next time.